Good afternoon. I am delighted to be here. I want you to be your brother's keeper real quick and go ahead and look at someone who's next to you, make sure they're sitting up and they're engaged and they're ready to go ahead and talk to them and find out whether or not they have questions that are ready for the panel later on. Really what I'm trying to do is wake you up. Dr. Carter, she slipped a few times and called me Reverend Rose or Pastor Rose, and that's because that's who I am. So I won't hide that. I do know how to come into a setting like this and not preach. It's my job, though, to start this time off by offering you a few things. And first thing I wanted to make sure you had was the opportunity to be alert and to engage this process. I'm proud of each of you, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm proud because throughout the course of my life, I've encountered several young men, countless young men, that have had opportunities like you, but didn't take the road that you've taken. The fact that you're in college and the fact that you're here, you ought to, if nobody else is happy for you, you ought to be happy for yourself. So go ahead and applaud yourself. And when the moment comes when you have to explain to somebody or talk to someone and tell them where you are and what you're doing, I need for you to do that with your head held high. I'm a lover of Valencia College, and I've encountered too many people who attend Valencia and they have to give a long story about why they are at Valencia. Say, I'm at Valencia, but I plan on doing this and doing that. No, just say properly where you are and be thankful that you are doing more than what some others are doing. Does that make sense? So hold your head high. Talk to me. You can clap or just say yes, say something. Does that make sense? Yes. All right. Hold your head up high. I want you to know that you're in a good spot. There's one question that I want you to answer today that I believe will make a world of difference in your life. It's done the same for me. Let me offer the question to you. The question is, what is the one thing that you can do that will make the biggest difference in your life? What is the one thing you can do today that will make the biggest difference in your life? I want you to stay with me, and I want you to think through that question. I'll give you just a second. What is the one thing that you can do that will make the biggest difference in your life? The reason I want you to ask yourself that question is because I believe that if we can get our minds to focus on the one thing that will make a difference in our lives, then we will begin to make steps, take steps, in order to have some success. Do y'all realize that every situation really boils down to, everything in life really boils down to one decision? You are here today. I know Dr. Carter said this is mandatory. How many believe this is mandatory for you to come? Raise your hand if you believe it was mandatory. Somebody said it was, I heard it. But guess what? You could have decided not to come. And of course, your deciding not to come probably would have meant you would have decided not to be in the program any longer. You would have decided you were going to pay for college on your own. You wouldn't have the stipends and things like that. It all boils down to a decision. I'm not at church, but that's who I am. Keep you awake. I'm going to have you repeat that. Say decision. And if your brother next to you didn't say it, hit him. Say decision. Decision. I can't hear you. Decision. All right. Decision. And I want you today to think about the one thing as we begin to dialogue with this great panel that's here today. I want you to think about the one thing that you can do, the one thing that you are deciding to do that will make the biggest difference in your life. Maybe it has something to do with your mindset. Got to get your mind right. Anybody want to be honest with me that there are times where your mind just goes places it ought not go? Thank you for 2 or 3 of y'all. Okay, y'all honest. Maybe it's your mindset. Your focus today is I gotta work on my mind. Gotta expand my mindset. Maybe it's your skill set. Maybe it's the fact that you realize that the skill set you're working with, and I hope that's everybody in here, can be improved. And if that's the case, then you got to focus on it. We will never accomplish anything if we don't focus on it. This is something I learned a long time ago, and I'm about to hand it over now to those who lead this discussion. I want you to hear this clearly, that the most important thing that any of us know about tomorrow is that we are shaping that tomorrow today. So the decisions I make today have direct impact on the life I'm going to live tomorrow. Can I say that again? The decisions I make today have direct impact on the life I'm going to live tomorrow. Just like you decided to come today. I know you said it was mandatory, but understand that you made a choice. You made a choice to enter into the Bridges program. You made a choice. And it would be a sad choice for you not to do the things you have to do now. And then end up like me. I'm still paying back student loans. Any other guys that here testify? All right. We're still working on some of those things. We didn't have the opportunity that you have now. So I'm asking you, I'm begging you to embrace making one decision, one thing. Everybody say one thing. One thing. Often is one thing that makes the difference between success and failure. One thing. Everybody say one thing. One thing. Often it's one thing that helps keep you from going over the edge or staying calm, like Brother Drummond said. Are you with me? One thing. And never say it's somebody else's fault. Because who is in control of your destiny? Y'all talk to me. I'm going to keep talking to y'all. Talk to me. Who's in control of your destiny? Am I in control of it? No. You're in control of your own destiny. And you got to decide today. We have to decide today that one thing we're going to do. I purchased for some of the guys at my church a little cheap. I shouldn't say cheap. You might not want it. But it was cheap. A little cheap band, put around the wrist, and it reminds me on tough days that when I can't do everything at once. I'm a math teacher also, and so I know what it's like to take a problem step by step. And I can't look at a problem and say, oh, I know what the answer is when it's a multi-step problem just by looking at it. But if I take it step by step, one thing at a time, then I'll eventually get to the answer. I've got this little thing I have on my wrist that reminds me every time I get overwhelmed, I need to focus on one thing. If I can do one thing well right now, I can go to the next step. It proved the point to me as I go sit down now. I proved the point to my own self just 2 days ago. I was in the office and I was trying to check email. At the same time, someone called me on the phone, and I've got a phone like you do that you can talk on speakerphone at the same time, send a text out. So I was looking at my computer, trying to look at the computer. I was trying to talk on the phone. I was trying to also respond to a text. A couple hours later, I went back and read the text that I sent to this young lady, member of the congregation, and I was ashamed at how bad the text was, because I couldn't multitask well. All I'm trying to say is, if I had taken time to focus on, everybody say it, one thing, then I would have done that one thing well, and then maybe move on to another task. I brought a few of these. Dr. Carter has them. For any of you who may need a reminder, like I need a reminder every now and then, to take your time, focus on one thing. If I'm going to walk a mile, how am I going to get there? One step at a time. I'm going to write a book, guess how I'm going to write it? You tell me, brother. No, this one. What is it? One page at a time. How am I going to write that page? Well, let's go to sentence first. Come on, one sentence at a time, right? And then one word at a time. You got it. One thing at a time. I'm going to focus enough to make sure everything I do well. So well that I can successfully move on to the next thing. Brother, say with me. I'm going to do it. One thing at a time. All right. Let's turn it over now to those who lead our panel discussion. And we look forward to you speaking to us and having us be able to speak back to you as sincerely as we can. Thank you.
All right, at this time, we're going to start our panel discussion. I'm going to have Dr. Bass come up, and he's going to start us off with questioning. Dr. Bass will explain what's going to go on. There's going to be mics on his side and mics on my side. And as you guys engage yourself in asking questions, we'll pass the mics to you to speak. There's a reason why I mentioned KOD and Rick Ross. It was to get you guys' attention, to make sure you guys were awake. So I know you guys are going to speak up and talk. So now's your opportunity to answer some of the questions and ask questions. And I'm going to be very straightforward with this. Grown men. 4 grown men in the back. 4 here, 1 here, 1 there. That's important. Now you have the opportunity to ask us questions and we can relate to you. Man to man. Grown men. I have a part-time job where I work at the Boys and Girls Club in Eatonville, Florida, 20 hours a week. And if anyone knows about Eatonville, it's a very rough area. Love my job. And I work in the 21st Century program. 3:30 to 8 o'clock every night, Monday through Friday. And I work with 4th graders and I work with teenagers. And they understand the difference between a grown man and a young man. You guys are young men trying to get to our stage. Let us help you get to that stage. Grown men, young men. Big cats, cheetahs. Go ahead, Dr. Bass.
Notice he didn't say cougars. All right, so what I'd like to do is have someone stand up. I love this quote that's up here on the screen. Is someone brave enough to stand up and read that loudly to make sure that we're all kind of focusing on what's being said?
Being a male is a matter of birth. Being a man is a matter of age. Being a male gentleman is a matter of choice.
Very good, thank you. So before we turn this over to the panelists, I want to reinforce what Mr. Rose said, the Reverend Rose said. And that is that you determine whether or not what is said today, the experience that you have today, you determine whether or not it matters. Right? You're going to determine that, right? This could be 2-3 hours of time that's just wasted, not well spent, right? Because you're not focused in on what's being said and who's saying it. Or this could be a pivotal point in your life. You could hear something that you take heart in and that changes your life, right? It's just something that resonates with you, right? So I really want to encourage all of you to take out a pen. Take out a pen. You have your programs. And on the back of your programs, as the panelists are talking about their experiences, I want you all to jot down a question and I want you to take notes. All right? I want you all to just be paying attention to what's being said. Right? And this could be something, as Mr. Drummond said earlier, right? This could be something that changes your life, right? You could hold on to this question, you could hold on to this program for the rest of your life because you decide that the information that you're getting matters. Just like we said, right? Whether you're a man, whether or not you're a male, or whether or not you're a gentleman, matters, right? But you determine whether or not this experience is going to matter for you, for your life. And we really hope it will. All of us want to see you grow as men. We want to see you be successful, right? And so we're here to help you with that, through that process. All right, so now we're going to turn it over to our panelists. We're going to start with Mr. Davis, and we're just going to ask him to share his experiences in life. Ask him to share some of the struggles that he's had and how he's overcome some of these struggles, right? As a man, as a student, as a father, as a husband, right? And we're going to ask the same thing of all the panelists. So it's just for 10 minutes, and you can just kind of share your story, share some of the struggles and how you overcome those.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I don't know where to start with my struggles, but I guess I can start out as Dr. Carter mentioned. I grew up probably an hour away from here in Tavares, Florida. Little small town, predominantly black neighborhood, African American neighborhood. We were very poor growing up. I really didn't realize how poor I was until later on in life I looked back and think, dang, we were too poor. So, no hot water, electricity on and off most of the times. Those are some really, think about it now, those are some good times growing up. Grew up in a single parent household, but for the most part, my mom kind of migrated back and forth to her mom's house. But at any given time, there were probably 20 people living in a 3-bedroom house. So you had to kind of fight and scratch for food, fight and scratch for beds to sleep in. But like I mentioned, we had a lot of love in the house, so we really didn't understand or realize how poor we were until I got to college. And I was like, man, I got a shower. This is great. So I went on to graduate, played basketball, really didn't have any ambition as far as going to college because somebody spoke of a first generation. I think I was the first neighborhood person. And I encountered neighborhood to go to college because we just didn't speak that kind of language in our neighborhood. It was a drug-infested, violent neighborhood. We didn't think about going to college. I happened to be very good in basketball and had coaches and everyone telling me we should go to college to play basketball. But that was the furthest thing in my mind was going to college. I was just a basketball player. So ended up, had a coach in high school who really believed in me and kind of pushed me. He was an alumni for UCF. He pushed me towards UCF, and at the time, UCF coach was telling me, hey, if you come here, as long as you're healthy, you're going to start every game, you're going to play every game, you're an hour away from your mom. The next year after signing, I realized that was a lie. I got there and sat on the bench my first year. So, but that made me work even harder because I was like, okay, I need to get out here and work hard and earn my spot. So I played basketball for 4 years, ended up getting hurt that first year, which was great because I would have sat on the bench. So I ended up starting the next 4 years, started every game. By the time I graduated, I was the all-time leader in three-point field goals made and second all-time lead scorer, and had opportunities to go overseas. I got invited to the Orlando Magic basketball camp, Atlanta Hawks basketball camp, Charlotte Hornets basketball camp, their free agent camps. But probably 2 weeks before camp, I was working out. I used to play a lot of ball over Asian. I used to be out there dunking on them all the time. Within probably 2 weeks before training camp, I ended up blowing my knee out. And I always talk about, when I tell this story to people, I always talk about I'm a firm believer. I was raised in the church, I'm a firm believer of God and my faith. And I think it happened for a reason because at that time in my life, I was young. I was 20, 21. I had the world in my hand. I was a superstar basketball player. I had girls on every corner. I used to sit them in the arena, put this girl over here, put this girl over here, put this girl over here. So, I had a great time. I was going out. I was partying. You would think that I had a lot of money. I mentioned that I was poor. And if you guys know anything about college sports, you're not allowed to work when you're an athlete. So it's not like my family was able to send me money. But you couldn't tell because every Friday and Saturday nights I was in a VIP in the club with a bottle in my hand drinking, So I was out of control. And I think God probably looked at me and said, man, if I put this kind of money in this kid's hand at this time in his life, there's going to be a destruction waiting to happen. So I ended up blowing my knee out, and I was disappointed. Rehab, came back, blew my knee out again, had some opportunities to go overseas, blew my knee out again. And at that time I started thinking, man, I better do something to get a job because basketball is not going to be the way. We're going to make it. So I ended up, let me go back a few years to that. Prior to that, probably my sophomore year, junior year, I can remember playing basketball and we had a coach, he had a huge sign on the board that said, it is not the will to win, it is the will to prepare to win. And I never understood that, all throughout college. So I can remember, when you play basketball, you have you guys have some great services and bridges. Those guys take care of you guys. But when you play sports, you have great services. I don't think in college I ever registered for a course. I never went to the bookstore because you just show up. They have your books in your locker, tell you here's the class you're going to take. You don't have to do anything. You just have to go to your class. And you need a 2.0 to stay eligible. Guess what I got? A 2.0. That's what I got. Education was not part of my agenda at the time. It wasn't until I got a mentor. I can remember he was he was like a vice president of Kellogg's or something like that. I can't even remember his name. It was so long ago. And he was talking to me one day, and I would meet with him every day. And he was like, so what are you going to do after basketball, after college? And I was like, what do you mean after basketball? I'm going to the NBA. So I had no plans. He said, what if you get hurt? What's your grades look like? So I would bring him my report cards, and he would look at the D's and the C's and the F's and all that stuff on there, and so that didn't concern me at that time. And then the next time, he was like, I want you to bring your playbook with you the next time you come. So I brought a playbook to him. Our playbook is probably about that thick. You know, we had to remember all those plays, and he would go through and say, what's red? I would tell him, what's green? What's red left? What's this? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's easy. I know this, I know this. And he was telling me, it's amazing that you remember all these plays when you make it a D in English. You know, how can that be? And that English book is this thick. You know, you remember every single play in there. And that kind of made me think, like, man, am I selling myself short, you know, by not really applying myself? You know, from then on, from probably, that was like my sophomore or early junior year, I made straight A's, you know, because I would think about what he was saying and how I need to apply myself. So I made straight A's, finished playing basketball, got hurt. I needed a job. Coming from my neighborhood, it was tough. I had that, I was in that neighborhood. When I say I was in that neighborhood, I was in that neighborhood. I can remember being 13, coming home and asking my mom, saying, hey, can I go and get gold teeth in my mouth? And she was like, you know, kind of slapped me inside my head. You crazy? The next day I showed up home, I had gold teeth in my mouth, from here to here, you know, from the dentist. They were permanent gold teeth. You know, and I went throughout college playing with those gold teeth in my mouth, and people, you know, not that that's bad, but people have that perception sometimes when they look at you. So I was interviewing for jobs, and here I am, an honor student, you know, graduated business management, and I went on probably 50 interviews. You know, I had an outstanding basketball career. People knew me throughout Orlando. And I would sit down across from a lot of these employers, and I think they look at my resume and like, oh, this guy plays basketball, he's an honor student. And I think I would smile, and that probably was just, everything went downhill from there in the interview. So I went to the dentist and I got the gold teeth removed. And the very next interview, I got a job in the computer industry. And it's kind of been a history ever since then. I went back and got my master's in computer science, and I've been at Valencia for almost 10 years now, and recently became the director of institutional research. And so my career is going really good. And I want to get back to that statement that I mentioned my coach had. He had that sign that said, it is not the will, it's not the will to win, it's the will to prepare to win. And I never knew what that meant until I graduated. And I was like, man, I remember that sign. What did that sign mean? And I didn't even think about asking him in practice, because I was like, hey, I'm the star out here, I don't need to read that, who cares what it says. So what that sign is really saying is that everybody wants to win. Everybody says, I want to be the leading three-point shooter. I want to be the smartest guy, but how much are you preparing to take on those challenges? You want this job, you want to graduate from college, but how much are you preparing? You just can't show up and say, hey, I'm going to graduate just because I'm in the Bridges program. So it's that will to prepare yourself for that. So if you prepare yourself to be successful at everything you do in life, I guarantee you, it'll happen for you, but you just have to prepare. You just can't show up and think that, I'm 6'5", I'm not going to say how much I weigh right now, but I'm 6'5". I guarantee you I can go on the floor and probably beat most of you guys in basketball. But I think, had it not been for my preparation over all these years, it would be a different story. So when you guys are, regardless of whatever you're doing, whether it's school, whether it's work, whether it's even talking to a girl, if you're not prepared or putting in the work to talk to that girl, guess what? She's not going to become your girlfriend. So everything you do in life, you have to prepare yourself for it and take on that challenge. Be ready to handle the ups and downs of it. So hopefully that's a statement that you guys can take along with you. It's not the will to win, it's the will to prepare.